Welcome everyone to this breakout session. Maybe some people will be joining, but we will be starting because we're on a tight schedule. So during the session, we will talk you through how you can prepare your ID management for a cookieless world. So what is needed actually to prepare for a future without cookies? How does this impact your strategy? And what steps can you take to prepare yourself for tomorrow? But first, let me introduce myself and my colleague. So my name is Tim Doorduijn. I'm a solution consultant for Relay 42. I have been working with Relay 42 for already 2.5 years and just helping the customers implement Relay 42 and using it to its fullest. Same accounts for my colleague Richard. He is doing the same as me, so helping our customers leveraging all the capabilities of Relay 42. Together we will be guiding you through the topics for the coming 30 minutes and hope to give you some insights in what you can do to prepare for the future that is called a cookieless world. At the end of the session, just like the sessions before, we will have time for some questions. Please type them into the chat and we will pick them up at the end of the session. But Richard, maybe you can then tell us something. What actually is this new situation, what's called a cookieless world? What does this mean?
Yeah, so the cookieless world, in all essence, it's basically just a way of privacy protection of users. We see all of the companies, the big companies with browsers like Google, Apple, Microsoft, they do very different things. They go differently about these things. They all have different names. We know it mostly by the name ITP, since Safari and Apple were the first going along this. But it's basically, in fact, limiting third-party cookies is the most known effect, and that's why we like to call it the cookieless world, just to give it a clear name so everyone knows what we're talking about. Yeah, and in this world we see a lot of things happening, and it's basically a cat and mouse game between all of the different parties, the advertising parties, the browsers, everyone trying to create workarounds. But what you also see in an increasing pace is these workarounds being blocked by, for instance, Apple. An example is link decoration. We saw that, for instance, Google was using link decoration to add cookies based on additions to the URL. Straight away after, Apple blocked all third-party cookies added via link decoration. So there's a lot of things happening, and that's basically our view on this is basically that all workarounds are temporary. So we rather say you should focus more on a first-party data strategy. So collect more first-party data and be less reliant on those third-party identifiers. Focus on what you have instead of what is being blocked in the future. So if we look at that last fact, strategy shift, it might sound simple, but it might, for all of you, be a bit more complex than as we just mentioned. So in essence, what does it look like? Well, if you look at the market right now, most marketing activities or channel activations are mostly based on third-party cookies, which is also a logical decision, simply because there's masses of people that you can reach via these third-party cookies. You can do just by simply adding a pixel. For instance, Facebook, you can reach masses of people that visited your website. You can add them in audiences, etc. But it's not a sustainable solution. With third-party cookies being blocked more often, the amount of people you can match and target will drastically decrease. So basically, cookies like DV360, second or third-party data collector cookies, social media cookies, they will be blocked in the end. So it's time to make a shift in your strategy and move away from these cookies and start moving towards collecting and activating more persistent identifiers. So this means moving away from these cookies and moving to first-party cookies and first-party identifiers like personal identifiers, email hash, phone hash, customer ID, but also, as Miles mentioned in the keynote, you can have device IDs as well. Those are persistent IDs as well. And yeah, if you see someone logging in constantly via the same device, those can be used as well. But a shift like this, of course, also means that you need some proper ID management in place, because without a proper ID management, yeah, you can try to collect this this information, you can try to activate this information, but yeah, it's a hard thing without without the right ID management in place. So yeah, collecting first-party data is one thing. It allows you to create a more personalized experience, but it's even more important to also have some advanced identity management in place. And with that, Tim will talk a bit more about identity management, what it entails, and how to go about it.
Yes, thank you, Richard. So collecting identifiers is one thing, but you need to be able to combine these identifiers into one coherent profile, as we call it in Relay 42, so to be able to use it properly. And therefore you do need some way of advanced identity management. So what we call advanced identity management means that you have the flexibility and control over what you do with the identifiers and how you combine them. And the essence is that you have the control. So let's say, as an example, you have a person that visits the website. At that moment, if you have the Relay 42 on there, you will get a profile ID. At this moment, also, we often do then the cookie sync with a display service provider, so DSP, which is in that sense a third-party cookie. That is always done, and it can be done even if you do not recognize the person. However, since those DSP cookie IDs or other third-party cookies are less relevant every day, you could say, the goal is to get people to, for example, log in. And the moment someone makes him or herself known, you get a customer ID, for example, if it's you have a customer relationship with that person. And based on that customer ID, you could also have, for example, an email, hashed email address or hashed phone number available as a identifier. So then based on one login, you could enrich that data already with 2 additional data identifiers. And then we have the next step. And let's say someone, we don't know who, but opens the app. You also get a new Relay 42 profile identifier if the app collects it. But let's say you also get an app ID. And then you, if you log in, you would get a consumer ID. If this consumer ID is the same for both profiles, then the interesting thing is that we can merge those 2 profiles together. And when you do that, that becomes one new Relay 42 profile with all the data and with all the identifiers from the 2 different profiles. So in this case, in this example, we did it on customer ID, but technically Relay 42 has the flexibility to do it on email hash, phone hash, app ID, whichever you want. The question is, what is the correct identifier to merge on and which one do you not want to merge on? Thinking about, well, can a household have multiple email addresses or multiple phone numbers? How do you recognize your unique person? And that's in essence the flexibility that Relay 42 gives. It does not do anything automatically, but it gives you the flexibility to set it up in the way you need it and the way for which identifier you think or which for you is the most important one. So collecting these identifiers is not too difficult technically. So things you could think of is, okay, on logins, you would recognize someone, and if that's then an email address or via phone or via customer ID, doesn't really matter. It is a personal identifier. App usage is also a good way. If you have an app, there is always a mobile advertising ID, and that's, well, it can be reset, but it's relatively constant, so that can be used for marketing purposes. If people click on emails, again, that can be used for recognition. So you could put the email hash then in the click information, and you could get that. For events, so if you have an events just like win campaigns or partnership events where people just buy tickets, then that's locations where you can get additional identifiers. Or very simply, newsletter subscriptions on your website. Often we have the discussion, not a lot of people do it, but it's not about how many people use it. It's about making a shift in strategy, as Richard mentioned, and that's making sure that you, on any place you can collect it, you will collect the data. And then what also for the people who joined Jad's discussion with Ireland for Air France, it's about the incentives. What is the added value for a customer, consumer to leave their data with you? Or how can you create a win-win scenario that you get data and that the consumer gets a better customer experience? That's what you need to think about. So technically saying, well, we know locations, we can collect the data. That's step one. But then think, okay, but why would I, as a customer, want to leave that data? So the incentives, for example, getting a discount on a product would be an incentive to leave data. If you want to participate in a contest that also where you can win something, it's an incentive to give your identifiers. But the difference between these incentives is, what is the beneficial value for the consumer? The beneficial value for a win campaign is a lot lower because there's a chance you might get something than if you get a discount for sure or get a free product for sure. So depending on the market you are in and the possibilities you have with connecting, you need to think of, okay, but for my consumer base, what is the proper way to handle these incentives, and how do I get this added value? So Richard will now show us some more examples of use cases with practice incentives.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Yeah, as Tim mentioned, of course, it's pretty straightforward to collect IDs as long as there's the right incentive. Alongside you, of course, have the basic that should be in place. So, for instance, when someone is ordering something, logging in, buying tickets, etc., those are the regular things to get your first-party identifiers in place. But those are not the only things. You can think of many other things to get those identifiers and to make use of those incentives, as Tim mentioned. If there's a need to get something in return in order to leave the information with you. So some examples you can think of, depending on the industry you work in, is, for instance, you see it a lot at KLM, for instance, or at hotel websites. Basically, businesses with fluctuating prices, you can store the search or you can save a price, so you have the time to think about it. KLM has a nice example that you can store your ticket price for 24 hours. So you now see a ticket to Curacao for 500 euros. And you're not sure if you want to do it, you can store it, so you're sure you're not paying more than the 500 euros you see today when you decide to book that same ticket tomorrow. But this is just one of the examples. There's a big incentive because you're sure you're not paying more than you do today. The second well-known example you see a lot in e-commerce is for saving items to the wish list. In order to store something to a wish list, you will need an account, because otherwise, if you come back to the website, your wish list will be gone. So the incentive is that you can put items on your wish list that you are not yet ready to buy at this moment, but you definitely do want to buy it in the future. So adding it to the wish list will give you a lot of positive feedback that you make it easier for the client to actually buy the stuff that they want to buy. And with the right opt-in settings, you can use these IDs to share the information with them in a later stage. Similar use cases regarding accounts are, of course, showing detailed information behind the login. We all know our utility services. You get an invoice or you get tips to reduce the energy waste, etc. But most of the times you will notice that there is a login required to get to that information. They could simply share a PDF via email, but of course they want you to go back to the website, log in, so you make yourself known for that specific client. So that is something you see a lot. The same goes, of course, for flight information. Someone has booked a flight. You can send them information later on about details of his flights. He could even upgrade his flight to, for instance, business class, buy an extra meal, etc. So there's a lot of examples you can think of, and there's just to collect the information. But collecting the information is one thing. As we mentioned before, most of the people are relying on third-party data at the moment, simply because there's masses of people they can reach via activation. So once you have this data in place, what is it you want to do? You want to activate on this data. And if you don't have third-party identifiers anymore, you don't have your Facebook pixels in place anymore to target those specific people, then you need to use the identifiers that you have. And the good thing is there is more and more paid channels that are open to other identifiers than just their own pixel IDs or their own user IDs. So what we see is partners like Google with Google Ads, like DV360, Facebook, Twitter, and Mopro. They are already opening up, making it available to share with them email addresses, email hashes, or phone hashes. So you're still able to target people with the first-party data information you have on those. So using this personal information to basically do the same, but even better, because when you get this personal information, it allows you to also get to know the customer even more and even better than you were before. So this means you can make your messages on these channels even more personal than before. But collecting the identifiers for these channels is one thing, but it also means that in essence, when you collect more first-party data, it also allows you to do more on your own channels, which is of course free. So apart from these paid channels, having these identifiers gives you way more possibilities to reach your potential clients in a way cheaper way than you did before with your third-party data. So when you have a phone number, you can use it to activate Facebook, but you can also use those same identifiers to activate those clients via your own channels. So let's say, for the example of the wish list, someone left his email for a wish list, he logged in, create a wish list. If he didn't purchase those items on his wish list for a long time, you are now able to send them in a reminder about those items being on his wish list. You can do basically everything. You can send SMS when you have a phone. You can do in-app personalization. You can do online website optimization, send notifications, whatever channel you have connected that is tied to those first-party identifiers. You can basically use, and it's cheaper, it's more personal, and basically there's a lot of benefits on moving to a first-party data first strategy.
And what is also interesting here, of course, Richard, is that with, for example, journey orchestration, you can choose which channel you want to activate first. So you could choose to first do your own channels, and then if the person doesn't respond to that, or there is nothing available, that you then use the paid channels afterwards. So you can also play with it more if you have more personal identifiers, which the world is moving towards, because they are losing, or we are losing, the ability for third-party cookies. So just to summarize what we just discussed, so it's about a shift in strategy. Third-party cookies are disappearing, and the question is, okay, what is the way to move forward? And the way to move forward is changing your strategy, thinking about, okay, but what identifiers are available in the market? And the most common ones at this moment are the phone number, email address, and mobile ID of the three. there are, of course, probably other ones, new ones will also come into existence. But the question is, okay, those are the main ones. How are you going to collect them? What is it in it for the customer? And how do you ensure then that you make a strategy to collect them, but also to use them? Because collecting is one thing, using them is another. So it's really a shift in your strategy, and this is not something you can do from one day to another. Also, you need to build up volumes, because if you have a lot of website visits, then the volume is very high, and you will start with a low volume of, in comparison maybe, and at least, of personal identifiers. So also you need to update your marketing landscape. So as Relay42, we are always innovating and looking at where the market is going. So indeed, platforms like DV are now also allowing customer match, means you can deliver just customer identifiers from you, and then they can use it on their end. So we are also investing in that, so we keep our connectors, the one Richard showed before, up to date, and make sure that we give you the possibilities to target all the different channels which we facilitate. However, then, yeah, still the data collection and the strategy needs to come from you. So two main things: strategy, make sure you have a correct strategy, and update your strategy. If you haven't started it yet, just start the discussion, and make sure your landscape is up to date. So check what platforms you are using, how are they moving away from third-party cookies, and ensure that what they need is also what you are collecting, because else you will have a mismatch. And then we have time for questions.
Yes.
I think I saw some. Okay, Paulo, good question. So it's not, Paulo says, it's not clear for me how to manage in the future advertising without third-party cookies. So the thing is that it will be challenging, because it's on one way a new way we are going. So it will be difficult in the beginning, because as we said, you need to collect other identifiers. Collecting pixels is very easy, because you can just put it on the website and it will collect something and you can use it. That will stop working at a moment. I think Google will stop third-party cookies in 2022. So the question is, what will be replacing it? And there is no clear answer on that yet. So as mentioned, there's things like customer match, which allows more identifiers to be sent. Facebook, for example, already allows to use several different identifiers, and depending on the platform, it differs what they allow. Yeah. The challenge will be, how are you going to collect that data? And that's really the win-win situation. So it will be less easy to get the customer's data, so getting volumes will be more difficult. However, you don't really have a choice in the strategy shift you need to make. So no, it is not completely clear, but what is clear is you need to change your strategy and start collecting these identifiers, because these identifiers you can use to target. So instead of targeting based on a third-party cookie, it is targeting based on an email hash. I hope that
and it's good to see also that the market is changing that direction as well. As mentioned, the big partners like Facebook and Google, they already have it all in place to target people on email hashes. So that is what we mentioned as well, and that also might answer your question, Sandesh. Question is there a view on how remarketing of visitors that are non-customers would happen in a third-party cookieless world? and that is basically the shift in strategy. So the challenge is to get more of the more identifiers that are not relying on third party. And there is also possibilities to do it via, as Jure mentioned, the mobile advertiser ID. But the big challenge is in how do we collect more email hashes, phone hashes that we can share, or customer IDs that we can share. So also for non-customers, like the wish list example, or save your flight price. Those are examples of people that haven't bought anything yet, but still you provide them with a solution to make their life easier and leave behind their personal information. So those are that's basically the shift in strategy you need to make. You can no longer rely fully on third-party data. So that is a big change. And of course, there is possibilities of contextual advertising if you still want to reach out to people that don't allow you to use their information. So there are possibilities, but the remarketing as we know it now will be a bit harder. Hope that answers your question.
Good question, Robert. So the question is, will it be possible to use similar audiences based on your first-party data? So that depends really on the channel. So as Relay, we say it is your data, and it is in a separate environment, and nothing is shared across well, as we call it, site IDs, but as clients, nothing is shared across customers. So doing lookalikes is not something at this moment Relay will be doing, because it is your data and we are not comparing it and making it in a bigger platform. However, we, of course, what we can do is you can make selections based on the data and send those selections towards, for example, a Facebook or a Google, and based on their information, they can create similar audiences based on the audience you have given. And also, this is privacy-wise very correct to do, because in essence, what you're doing, if you are sending it via Relay 42, you're just saying, actually, we have an identifier, and that identifier, I want to place it in this group in Facebook or Google or whatever. They don't know anything else. They don't know which pages the person visited. They don't know what other identifiers. They don't even know if the person doesn't exist. They don't even know who the person is. If the person does exist, they have their own view. So, and based on that view, they will use similar audiences.
Yeah, you basically share less information with external parties, so it makes it safer, so to say. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for the questions. So yeah, we would like to thank you all for taking part of this session. What's next is tune in for the last bit of the program. That is the Relay 42 vision by our CEO, Rogier. His presentation will start at the main stage at 16:13 CET. So hope to see you all there, and after that we will have networking possibilities as well.
Thank you for your time and for your questions.